Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic and other bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm Louis, and my pronouns are he and him, and I'm recovering for crystal meth and alcohol, and I'm always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to this podcast.
Yeah, do that.
Absolutely.
Subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Is that what they say on the YouTubes?
Something like that.
Something like that. Why do I feel like this intro music is longer than usual? What's that about?
I don't know.
What's that about? Another disclaimer, the thoughts and opinions expressed on At the CCC are its own. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. And of course, everything we talk about is for general information purposes only. How are you, Louis?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little sleepy.
Hello. I was like, this bitch.
The second you started talking into the mic, I was like, oh, he's tired.
Yeah, it's like, that's okay. It's like, you know,
it's okay. But we're alive. We're here for you.
I needed to get a Red Bull.
I needed a Red Bull. So we are continuing our series on different roads or paths to recovery. And today we're going to start our series off talking about WFS, so Women for Sobriety, which is another program. Yes. And of course, we're going to welcome back our co-hosts today. We're excited to have them on again. The Sages. Hi, Sages. Yeah.
The Sages. Thank you for having us back.
Yeah.
I love that.
Welcome back.
Oh my God, it's been such a long time since I've seen you.
It's been
I haven't even changed. I hope I don't smell bad wearing the same dress.
It's my Friday night dress.
This is my Friday night dress.
No, I used to have this shirt, this 70s style shirt that was tight, that was buttoned down or whatever. I called it my party shirt. You should never have
Wore it to bed.
You should never have a party shirt. No. Well, basically, like if I'd make it home wasted, I probably would sleep in it. But it's like, that was about it.
Work. Okay. How are the two of you?
Throw up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
A little bit of everything.
That's one way to transition into this. Yeah. How are the Sages doing? How are the two of you doing?
We're good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Sage M.
Hi,
I'm Sage
M.
H. Yes.
And together we're the Sages.
We are the Sages.
Yes.
We come to clear negative energy from
Oh, I love that.
Okay, that's what I keep thinking of when we say sages.
Truly.
I keep thinking of like these spiritual leaders and communities.
Well, your thought process is correct.
Yeah.
I love that.
Worked. Okay, so we're going to start our series on Women for Sobriety. So just a quick primer for folks at home. So Women for Sobriety it's a gender-specific recovery program created in response to many women, for example, experiencing traditional recovery spaces as shaming or male-centered or overly punitive. So rather than focusing, for example, on confession or powerlessness, WFS emphasizes emotional growth, self-esteem, self-compassion as the foundation of lasting recovery. So in essence, WFS explores a different kind of gender responsiveness to recovery. If folks have ever read, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of the language in there can feel very sexist, can feel very patriarchal. And beyond feel, I mean, it explicitly...
It
yes, it is. Yeah, no, it is.
It is he.
Yeah.
Every other sentence.
Yeah. And a lot of that is based on like its founding, right?
Exactly.
You know, all the kind of like iterations it went through, like not having in certain groups of people or it being kind of reserved for like high bottom drunks.
Yeah, exactly.
And things like that. So some things that WFS focuses on is on emotional pain. So recognizing that deep wounds can drive addictive behavior. Ideas of low self-worth, so addressing core beliefs about deserving care and love, this idea of social conditioning. So, you know, like we live in a society that has certain systems that we can find ourselves in. So it's understanding that when we're thinking about gender, for example, that gendered expectations and pressures can also influence someone's recovery. And then, of course, relationship dynamics. So thinking about healing patterns formed in connection with others. A kind of a callback to our last episode when Sage M was talking about being community-based creatures.
Hey, community-based. I'm out.
Oh, are you drunk?
I am.
So we're going to stage an intervention.
He has his party shirt on.
Yeah. Yes, party shirt. So just kind of one last thing. Okay. All right. So one of the last things here that I think is really important to mention, and then we can also talk about the statements that are integrated into that program, is that so WFS believes that like shame undermines recovery, and I think we can agree if you've ever done if you've ever been in like mental health treatment with a therapy, that we know that like shame can manifest in these really ugly ways. And so the idea too is that in WFS is that self-esteem protects against relapse. So if you have emotional regulation, that emotional regulation matters so much more than punishment. And that growth happens through affirmation and not humiliation, right? And if we think about addiction within that framework, part of it is rooted in the understanding that it's less of a moral or spiritual problem and more about a maladaptive coping strategy. And the last thing I wanted to say is that part of the program, or how the program is structured, is organized around 13 acceptance statements, which function as guiding principles rather than rigid steps. Sage, do you have those up on your phone?
Yeah, I can. I was reading them on the way over here.
Okay.
And they're great. I think they.
I was reading them on the way over here.
I tried to say that with such a straight face. No, but I mean, I think whether you practice this program or 12-step or another SOS program, like they may or may not hit home. So 1, I have a life-threatening problem that once had me. 2, negative thoughts destroy only myself. 3, happiness is a habit I am developing. 4, problems bother me only to the degree I permit. 5, I am what I think. 6, life can be ordinary or it can be great. 7, love can change the course of my world. 8, the fundamental object of life is emotional and spiritual growth. 9, the past is gone forever. 10, all love given returns. 11, enthusiasm is my daily exercise. 12, I am a competent woman and I have much to give life. And 13, I am responsible for myself and my actions.
Thank you, Sage. And part of, and the function of that is that members are encouraged to internalize the statements, gradually applying them to their daily life at their own pace, right? It's kind of, I'm thinking about like the 12 steps, for example, is that we kind of like gradually move through those steps.
They were talking about at meetings, they focus in on one and then they.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So there's no timeline, there's no hierarchy, no pressure to perform recovery in a particular way. And just kind of more into the general structure. So there are no sponsors. So peer support without a type of hierarchy, no steps, guiding principles, but not the mandates, right? So like in the 12 steps, we have very specific things, or here that isn't there. They're more principle based. So no hierarchy, so equal voices across the recovery, and there's no required disclosure. So you just share what feels safe. So cool. with all of that, so folks listening and for people at the table, we were reviewing all of this before we went on air today, and we were all kind of thinking about how lovely it sounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What came to mind is what came to mind for me is the fact that someone felt that it was necessary. And if someone felt that it was necessary, it was because something wasn't working within the rooms of recovery, the 12-step programs, right? And what I know is in some recovery rooms, 12-step programs, it is unsafe for some people.
Yeah.
You know, like when we talk about 12 or the 13 stepping, right? And not allowing someone to actually get the recovery that they need. So I'm glad that a woman felt that she needed to create a space safe enough for other women. What it also says is that that you can use it in conjunction with another 12-step program or another program.
Oh, interesting.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sage, you were saying before we went on air that it sounded like a women's meeting, like a women's 12-step meeting. And then Sage, you were talking about how it sounded like an NA meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you say more about that?
I mean, I think even just reading through the 13 principles, like I'm responsible for myself and my actions, like have the courage to accept the things I can change. Life can be ordinary or it can be great. I mean, we talk about this like amazing life that will be revealed in sobriety. We talk about a lot of topics. I was trying to find another one. But for me, it feels like going to a 12-step meeting that's specifically focused for women. And I echo what other Sage was saying. Like when I first entered the rooms into recovery, of course, I had my own experience and how inclusive I felt like it was being. But at the same time, I think as an addict, I kind of had to be creative in how I inserted myself into those spaces and be a little overly confident just to make sure that my voice was being heard.
Oh, okay.
And I think that, the person who proceeded with creating this type of fellowship specifically for women didn't have that experience, and they approached sobriety maybe in a different way. And so it worked for them.
Can you, I'm curious, everyone at the table, say more about this idea of feeling.
Say more. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, would you please say more about, this idea that, because what I'm hearing is having to perform recovery in a very particular way. So being in a room and feeling like you had to sound more confident, like there was some kind of part of you that was responding to the room. Can you say more about that?
I mean, I'm a tweaker trans woman, so I have to like overly perform in every aspect of my life. And I think, unfortunately, that includes the rooms of recovery, because I think, unfortunately, not a lot of women, specifically trans women, make it into the rooms because they don't have the resources. I mean, I think if we wanted to even make a trans and sobriety, we would see so much of that, like emotional distress that kind of the creator of this fellowship was talking about. So I think for me, overperforming is this kind of unfortunately a reality, at least for me. I can't speak for anyone else at the table, but
And it makes me think about other marginalized groups, of course, not to take away from the experience of women or trans folks, but it also makes me think about if we're thinking about kind of patriarchal systems or structures, about how if you belong to a marginalized identity, that you will likely have a very similar experience in a 12-step program. That tends to be, I would say it tends to be like older, straight and white.
Yeah, no, I would think it's white male centered. And unfortunately, sometimes you need to, like in 12-step, I remember my first sponsor. I've been fortunate enough to have men of color. But one of the things that I struggle with is that, I need to be able to express myself and not feel like I'll be gaslit into thinking that what I believe is not a value, or I don't get to believe this or feel what I do.
Right.
And I understand on both sides. It's like it's not my issue. So it's not my issue. So I don't understand it, but I usually with sponsors, I get it. I want you to find someone who does understand it, because I think that there is value in it. I heard the best thing at a POC meeting online in Oakland. I think it's one that's popular. A woman, she's just like, if it affects me, I get to work the steps around it. Does not matter. And that's what one of our tagline, if you don't know, is like, there are no outside issues. Absolutely none.
No.
Yeah.
Right. I practice Narcotics Anonymous, and one of the reasons why Narcotics Anonymous started was because people were going to AA meetings and not hearing their stories, right?
Not hearing their stories?
Their stories, their own stories of addiction.
Okay.
Right. And when they would talk about their stories, they were told that they couldn't, right? They had to curate their shares in a way to make it comfortable for the people listening.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when Narcotics Anonymous came to be, it was because people had to find identification with each other. And so therefore the Narcotics Anonymous, fellowship was created. It's the same way as people of color or women or queer people, right? In order for us to find recovery, a foot in recovery, we have to first identify with the people who we are seeking safe space from.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, then we won't stay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, oh God, there's so much richness in that.
Because if you think about, 1935, 1953, that's when, and so 1935 was when AA started. 1953 was when NA started, right? If you think of what was going on during that time, you have Jim Crow, you have, women being suppressed, do you really think that women were sharing their deepest, darkest secrets in these rooms?
No, of course not. No.
There's even stories of Bill W. talking about how there were Black men who wanted to go into a meeting and they couldn't go in, and they took a group conscience, and the group conscience said no.
Yeah.
And that's why, the 12 steps came to be, right? Yeah. And that wasn't the basis of the 12 steps, but it helped, usher in the change that was needed. So
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm thinking of here is kind of an essential part of the human experience is belonging, right? And that could be community, that could be, but it's belonging. And so when we think about if we think about the origins of 12-step, for example, it was very small. It was a very specific group of people, right? If we think about psychology as it's thought about in the United States, right? Like if we're thinking about like psychoanalysis, that also was kind of rooted in a very upper middle class white way of thinking, right? And so I bring all of this up to say that there are these different structures that we operate in, and there are ways that some kind of foundation or fundamental beliefs kind of leak into the experience. What I'm thinking of, for example, is there's certain things that a lot of people don't have to think about, right? So if, for example, like going back to the halftime show, right? Yeah. So I was watching the halftime show. I'm Puerto Rican. I was watching it and I felt like this incredible sense of, I felt there was a bit of liberation there. And a big part of that was I was able to see myself reflected back at me. There was no translation there. Right. Yeah. And that experience is something that if you're a heterosexual white man going into a space that is predominantly heterosexual and white, there's something very similar happening in that space. There's something that you're not having to think about, where if you belong to a marginalized group or you're stepping into a system that wasn't designed for you, then that stuff is also going to be there. And so the person who's on the outskirts is going to have to do all this extra psychological cognitive work. To your point about not hearing the stories and then editing those stories in order to make sure other people are feeling more comfortable, right? Go ahead, Sage.
Performing thing that you were saying.
Yeah, what you were saying, yeah.
No, I'm just sitting with what you're talking about, like the historical context too, because I mean, you have like prohibition, right? And then you have AA, and then you have Jim Crow and segregation, and you have NA, and then I was just looking, I'm like, when did CMA start? And it started in 1994, which is kind of as the AIDS epidemic is kind of starting to get grips and have a treatment available.
Yeah.
I don't want to say specifically for gay men, but for like folks a part of that community, I could only imagine what the LGBTQ folks during the AIDS epidemic, how they may have been feeling in NA meetings and AA meetings.
Right. Right. And let's even we can even go even broader than that, right? Because if we think about just how historically women have been treated, right? I've in my dissertation, I had to do some research on the kind of history of intimate partner violence, right? And a lot of
what was the title?
The dissertation, it's called, okay, give me a second.
I love a dissertation title.
They're always really long. So it's male same-sex intimate partner violence, the role of altruistic guilt in the perpetration and victimization.
Yes, God.
Yeah. By Anthony LouiLou. So Y'all are dumb for that. So the point is, I bring that up because when I was doing my literature review, I was looking pretty far back. I'm like, how far back can we document violence against women or like socially sanctified violence against women?
The Bible?
Yeah, girl. And even before then, right? Like it's the violence against women or women as seen as like second class citizens or right. Like that's existed forever.
And it's actually, and this idea of violence against women too, it's important to note that it's not just physical violence. It's all of it.
Systemic violence.
It's
Yeah.
just all of it. It's
Yeah. And the other part of that too is, and it's also, it's inaccurate to say that exists across the globe. Like, yes, violence against women exists. Yeah, because there are some, right, because there are certain cultures where that isn't the story, right? It's the same thing when we think about like queer people or trans folks, like the ideologies that we find ourselves in the United States, for example, they're not necessarily ingrained in other cultures, right? And so that's like this other thing, like the kind of, I just want people to know that Louis just yawned into the mic.
It's late. Hello. It's like, you start out, it's like, I think I'm tired.
But the point that I'm trying to get
here,
here
is like, I just want everybody to know
but
what Louis is doing right now.
the point that I'm trying to make here is that like when we think about women's suffrage or we think about I think it was maybe it was just 50 years ago where there weren't any protections for women that are married and being like raped by their husbands, right? Like that there were no legal protections for that person. And if you go online, there's some really like heinous shit that's being said in like
Netflix, all the documentaries. Hey,
so go ahead.
Something's interesting. Do you understand, like, how we're approaching this and the last episodes about the SOS, how like went in with that bias, and it's kind of the same thing, except that the thing that you substitute is the spirituality.
You mean with
Well, it's almost like, I'm listening to the conversation and there is this kind of connectedness or relatedness that we can appreciate from why these meetings were necessary and
remain necessary.
And we remain necessary. And it's almost like we need to apply that same willingness and acceptance to those others. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've grown in these episodes. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm glad, Louis. I'm glad to be part of your growth.
I'm tired, and so this is how.
No, I get it.
This is when he attacks me.
When you're down. The point that I'm trying to get to here is that we're thinking about recovery, which is a very specific experience. And that recovery, regardless of what it is happening within larger systems, and it's going to be influenced by those systems, right? So when we're talking about the experiences of women, for example, that needs to be understood within a systemic context, a historical context, right? There are social determinants there that are really important to think about. Speaking to the point about like the need, like a need for this type of meeting.
I know that's why when, in recovery rooms, when we talk about outside issues, right? Like there really isn't.
There's no
such thing because
there are issues that make certain individuals uncomfortable. And if their voice is loud enough, then they want to tailor things to work for them. And that's just not, ideally we're all able to kind of express ourselves in the way we need. Like I love when folks, actually, perfect example. One of our fellows, Angel, shared at the big Sunday night meeting, and he transformed the meeting it became a BIPOC meeting.
How so?
Because he started with a prayer. He started with a kind of what do you call it when you
land acknowledgement,
and he expressed he focused in on that, and then he was very kind of mindful about who he called on. And so it was one after the other, and it just built up. And so I could see my white brothers and sisters squeaming, getting a little squeamish, and I'm like thinking, "Wow, now you understand. You understand. I get it." And it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I have questions about Sage. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. So this is one of the things that I was thinking about too. Is that so when I think about kind of systems of power, and if we're thinking about systems in general. what undoes those systems? So sometimes I wonder, for example, if we're talking about, okay, let's take BIPOC. Do we, for example, if part of like the effort behind having BIPOC meetings is about not neutralizing, but switching or empowering, right? So does empowerment have to come from creating an other, right? Or do we keep power structures in place if we just replace them, right? Because But that's part of a larger conversation, because when I'm thinking about recovery spaces, I think, because I've had this conversation before, right? Like I literally overheard one of my fellows who was like, the BIPOC meeting is the most hateful meeting, and he's white. He's like, it's the most hateful meeting in the Castro. I don't understand why people go to it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's interesting because we don't say that about all men's meetings, or we don't say that about all women's meetings, right? And so that's what I think about is like, is it necessary? Like, do we keep power structures in place if we're just kind of replacing or pushing it on one end to the other? Like, for example, the BIPOC meeting. Yeah. Like, if we are excluding white people, does that really kind of serve a cause? If we're excluding, and this is a general question, right? I have answers to it to myself, but if we're thinking about recovery for like women focused WFS, could men stand to benefit from that kind of structure?
You know what? I feel like.
Go
ahead. No,
you go. You're the guest. Yeah.
Okay, I think that everyone can, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer your question as it relates to me and my recovery journey this time around, right?
Okay.
So I had 6 years of recovery, and then I relapsed, and now I have 4, right? When I came back into the rooms, prior to coming back into the rooms, I only went to LGBT focused groups, right? Or meetings. And now I do all meetings.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's necessary for one who has a different identification to be first empowered in the spaces that give them voice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they are ready to integrate, then they do. And when they do, then they bring a different perspective because I'm able to stand on my own in these other meetings,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And so I bring my voice into that space. And so, yeah.
Well, and the other part of what I'm hearing here too is that I'm thinking about how, especially in early recovery, or even in like with recovering from traumatic experiences, how sensitive and vulnerable we are, and how important it is for us to feel loved and connected. And I can see why in like really early recovery, it would be beneficial for people to be surrounded by community, and for that community to empower them to be in other spaces. But to start off from a place of feeling like a lone wolf, I can see that being especially difficult.
And to your point, I'm sorry.
She's our guest.
Well, I know. I just want to
No,
say.
let the man speak.
No.
Oh no! Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I stopped. We're doing one.
You just got canceled on. Go, Louis. Go ahead.
I'm gonna pull your mic. Yeah.
It's okay. The black man can speak over the white woman.
Oh God. Okay. No, I was gonna say it's like to what Sage M was saying. It's like, I think that if I never leave those spaces, if I go for the support but I never leave the spaces, then to your point, that shifts the change. But because we don't, I'm not that fortunate. I don't have a BIPOC meeting I can go to every day. I don't get to lose myself in a BIPOC type thing. Although I've seen some people who do it and they're pretty toxic.
Okay. Sage, what were you going to say?
Go ahead, Sage. Go ahead, Sage H.
I'm so sorry to take up space in this conversation about women in sobriety. I wanted to echo, though, what Sage M was.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how I got that response. I want to echo what Sage M was saying, because I had the exact same experience where I only went to LGBT meetings, and I think my home group for like the first year or two was specifically like the T for T meeting in the Castro. And I needed that space to be around other queer and trans people. And in all honesty, now I can't stand that meeting.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
With all the love. But I also think kind of what the two of the gentlemen we're talking about, like when we look at cycles of power, is marginalized groups when they have that comfortable space to be within one another, oftentimes we do see cycles of oppression recreate itself, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so like
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
and not to like get into oppression Olympics, but like what gender is primarily speaking at BIPOC meetings, what gender is primarily speaking at LGBT meetings, what race is specifically talking often in women's meetings, right? Like we see those power imbalances take place all the time. And so I think I definitely don't need a T for T meeting 7 days a week, but I think having it 1 day a week is helpful in case I want to go to that meeting and say, I'm so sick of these queens talking over me and da-da-da-da, or like, oh my God, these white people are so fucking dumb. And I want to just talk about it in a comfortable, safe circle. I think those spaces are really crucial.
Right. I know we have to land the plane, but I did want to respond to what you were saying. Yeah, there's yes, right, 100%. And like
Yes,
I think yes, and well, no, because I'm thinking about, for example, when we think about the different waves of feminism, like first wave, second wave, third wave, right? When we look at those waves of feminism, those were exactly the questions that we need to ask ourselves when we're looking at them. So when we were talking about first wave feminism, who was being excluded from those conversations, right? It was women of color who was being excluded, that were being excluded. When we think about kind of during the 90s, when we were talking about LGBT rights, I'm thinking about like the Clinton administration and movements within equality, human rights, right?
We're talking about me.
Right. So they took out, well, the other thing that they did is they took the T out of the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So then it became about these other groups, right? So there's just so much more to talk about. I think we'll continue this on until the next episode. So let's land this plane.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Go ahead.
please put the life vest on the women first. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
Well, bless your heart, Sage H. So the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help change lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
Yes, and check out new episodes every Monday.
Bye. We love you.